in later for the then versus now. I know you'll get it late.
Had those yesterday?
Yes.
You had those yesterday?
Eric, come.
All right, let's go on over. Woo! The baby photos and the quotes are due tomorrow. You may turn in your then and now picture later. But if Miss Carter does not have your baby picture in quotes, you will not be featured in this section. Students, let's go. Next Thursday, September the 30th, for freshmen, sophomores, and juniors. Students, when you get your order form and advisement today, when you go to have your picture made next Thursday, you must pay then. Teachers, if you did not get your order forms out of your closet, please send someone to get these order forms or make your way to get these order forms. I still have several in the teacher's boxes. They must have these to get their pictures. Also, students, don't forget, if you leave something at home and you have your parents to bring it, I do not do delivery. Also, you have 3 days to bring in excuses when you're absent. If you wait till December, they are not accepted unless it's about December. Also, students, if you come in late, you must come out the front office and get you a tardy sheet. If not, you're marked out all day. Also, if I call for you for checkout, you have to sign out, or that's called skipping. That's it for today. Everybody have a good day.
Anybody have any questions? Anybody think Miss Vicky's playing today? Hey, I haven't decided what to wear for picture day yet. Have you guys decided?
I didn't know there was one.
I'm not sure how to do my hair just yet. I'm not sure what I'm going to do. It's long. That's gonna be enough. Hey, remember, yearbook pictures are forever. Yearbook pictures are forever. Yearbook pictures last forever. It's exactly what I mean. That yearbook will be in the library for as long as Bacon County High School is. Anyhow, I like to take a fun yearbook picture, but I actually haven't even seen my yearbook picture. Anyway, good morning. Good morning. That's good. That's good. Shayla, happy birthday. Everybody wave at Shayla. Happy birthday. Happy birthday. She brought breakfast. We'll do it after our bathroom break, all right? Hey, I got these yesterday as well. And I got it. Hey, my turn. I got these yesterday being a social studies teacher. It's called the Voice of Democracy Essay Contest, and it's put on by the VFW, Veterans of Foreign Wars. We got a VFW in town. And if you don't know, we got a VFW in town. We got American Legion in town as well. So if you're interested, this is not mandatory. It's not everybody. If you're interested in writing this essay for the VFW, it's because it's a scholarship contest. Like money, there's money on the line for this contest. So don't get to the end of your high school days and be like, man, I don't know how to pay for college, when you've had these opportunities along the line, right? I think some of you really are good candidates for being competitive in this essay contest. So that's my advertisement for that. I may force a couple of you to take these home. I may be like, hey, you need to do this essay, and I'll give you that paper. But it's open, absolutely open to everybody. If you want one of those copies, if you want a copy of the Voice of Democracy essay contest, you may have one. And the deadline for that is October 31st. So it is kind of coming up. I'll make it worth, if you do it, if you attempt to do the Voice of Democracy essay contest, I'll make it worth your while. I'll throw some bonus points at you. I don't know even what that means yet, but I'll make it worth your while. I promise, okay? You give me extra, I'll give you extra. That's real easy. And you may hear about that in a couple of your other classes or advisement as well. I'm just throwing it out because as a veteran of a foreign war, I like the VFW, and I think it's important. If y'all can make this the next TikTok challenge, that'd be awesome. I think I got some leaders in here. I think somebody might be capable of making this the next TikTok challenge. Let's call it the turning in work on time in school challenge.
I think so too.
That'd be lit. That'd be awesome. I dare you. I dare you to try. I dare you to try. Bet it up. What? No, you guys steal something from here, I'll wreck you. You do that, what's called vivacious licks or something like that. Delicious licks. Devious licks. Yeah. Steal something from this room, I'll wreck you. Hey, I got a question for you. Do you have a moment to talk about our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ?
Yes.
we gonna talk about today? The Crusades. Obviously, I hope it's a little humorous for you because it's like, greetings. Would you like to talk about this person that offers salvation? But no, the Crusaders came in with force. So it's kind of a double irony there. Christians are love, joy, peace, patience, kindness. But let's talk about salvation. This is the Crusades that we're going to talk about today. What'd you say?
Amen.
Amen. Praise hallelujah. Yeah, so the Crusades are a fascinating portion of world history, hundreds of years. Okay, so we're going to cross feudalism, right? There's a crossover into feudalism. There's also a crossover into the Reformation and the Renaissance. It's not like we're just talking about this one little portion of time called the Crusades. It extends both left and right on the timeline. So as we talk about other units coming up, we're just still going to see the influence of the Crusade, but we're talking about it now because it fits right at this time on the timeline of world history. But just keep in mind, it goes backwards into feudalism, which we just talked about. It goes forwards into the Reformation and the Renaissance, which we're about to talk about. So a pretty lengthy period of time, wide influence. It involves two major world religions, which is why we had our purposeful religion week. What are those two religions? Take a guess. Christianity and Islam. Yeah, Christianity, Islam, Christians, Muslims, however you want to say that, going to find themselves in direct combat, war with each other. So it's very interesting thing to talk about. Very important to understand the religious side of it, which is why we had the full-on religious week, Religions Week. So today and tomorrow, we are going to be talking about the Crusades, right? I wish we could give it more than 2 days, but I will say for the 2 days we have, we go full tilt. We give it a real good teach in 2 days. So you got to tuck in, you got to pay attention. These next 2 days are important. I hope you won't check out tomorrow just because it's Friday. Peace out. See you later. No, we still got an important thing to talk about tomorrow as well. Got a question for you. I want to do a personal challenge to myself, maybe. You think I can teach this to you in 15 minutes?
Please.
This guy. You think I can teach it in 15 minutes?
I'd
Use some notes. Gerardo, what? Yeah, you know what? Pull out your iPhones. Pull out your phones. Set up that 15-minute timer. Set up that 15-minute timer. Pick the most annoying sound you could choose.
All right.
Someone got your mic?
That
That was too easy. Who's got ducks? I like the duck one. Machine gun. I'm going with machine gun.
Wait, I got you. Where's that?
All right, you got your 15-minute timer set? Mine needs to be my starter. Got it set? I want to hear all these timers go off at the exact same time. Right.
All right. When do we start it?
I'll give you the count.
5 seconds.
I'll give you the count. Oh, so before we get started, I get to give all my pre-information. You have your sheet of notes, right? Okay, I'm gonna essentially blast through the 5 W's of the Crusades, and if you see your open-ended notes here, you'll see it pretty much goes in that order. Also, on your 5W vocab for the week, you're gonna grab 4 more. So we had 6 for feudalism, 4 for Crusades. So this is still out there as well. Those will be due tomorrow, and I will say that one of those terms maybe we talk about tomorrow. So if you want to turn it in at the end of class, I get that. But what's due tomorrow will be the feudalism notes page, 5W's notes page, and this guy right in front of you right here. I will actually take stuff up at the end of the hour so that you can have had a full time. So that you can have had the full time to make sure you get all the notes, okay? Everybody's pencil ready?
Miss Coleman.
She left. I don't know.
We start timer?
No. 5, 4, 3, 2.
Are you serious?
Are we going on 1 or 0?
1 or go. We're gonna go on go. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, go.
Okay.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1, go. Yeah, I don't think I could do it in 15 minutes either. Let's find out. What is the Crusades? Crusade is a holy war. So Croy means cross, and it actually literally means going to the cross. A crusade was people going to fight on behalf of the cross. A crusade is a holy war. So when you understand what it is, holy war, you can see that this is not, it's not about land, it's not about money, it's not about patriotism. The inner motivation for this really is religion. A crusade is a holy war. A crusade was considered to be holy. I'm going to show you some pictures along the way. No photographs yet. We're not at that point in world history, so we got to rely on art. You can see the kind of the stereotypical crusader with the chainmail helmet. He's got a cross on his armor. He's carrying a flag with the cross. He's worshiping because his war is not about land, money, or patriotism. His war is holy. Who was involved in the Crusades? You guys seem to have a pretty good working knowledge. You already told me it's Christians and Muslims. And if you remember back to our conversation about each, you probably remember they each kind of have a dominant portion of the world. Christianity related to Europe, Islam related to the Middle East, right? The angel of the Middle East. We've looked at those countries before. So we're going to have two people groups battling, but related to the geography that they belong to as well. So gentlemen, to your corners, come out punching. We got Christians versus Muslims. A little bit more on the who's involved. Well, the First Crusade was called for by a pope. There's a lot of popes, right? And we're going to continue to talk about Catholicism and how it fits into various other events as well, like the Reformation and the Renaissance. There are way too many popes to memorize. How many U.S. presidents are we up to? 46. There's way more popes than that, okay? We're not into memorizing pope names, but occasionally we got to know the big ones. Pope Urban II called for the First Crusade. That's a big one, okay? We got to put that in your brain. Pope Irving II called for the First Crusade. Pretty cool name, right? If my name was Urban, you'd probably make some assumptions about me. Pope Irving II calls for the First Crusade. There's also a Pope Innocent who calls for a follow-on crusade. Pretty interesting. His name is Innocent because he's not so. But I definitely need you to put those two into your brain. Pope Urban II calls for the First Crusade. Pope Innocent calls for a follow-on crusade. You might be like, follow-on? How many crusades were there? Let me tell you. This is art of Pope Urban calling for the First Crusade in 1095. That's a big year. This whole time period, the whole chunk of the Crusades, starts in 1095 with an official call for the crusade. We might say that a president declares war. Well, in a holy war, when you're pitting a person group against another person group related on religion, the Pope calls for the crusade, much like a president would declare war. Another piece of art with Pope Urban standing on the church steps. Again, no social media, no iPhones in his face, no bank of microphones. He calls for the crusade in front of a relatively small crowd. And then, of course, that call for crusade has to spread by writing, by word of mouth, riders carrying the message on horseback throughout the countryside. Pope Urban II calls for the First Crusade. Starts in 1095 and extends really all the way up to the 1700s. Up to 8 total crusades. Now, why is 8 in quoting marks? 8.
Because that's the only that were
documented.
The only ones that were documented. That's a great thought. Anyone else?
Good thing it never really stopped.
Never really stopped? Yeah, those are great thoughts. We got 4 concrete crusades, like 4 legit crusades. The first 4 were significant. And then, there's 5, 6, 7, and 8, and 7.5, and a children's crusade. What the heck does that mean? The first 4 were most important. There were up to 8. And I really like the way Eric said it. Has it ended? Has the crusade period ended? From a history perspective, we're going to say 1095 through the 1700s. But from a more ambiguous perspective, I kind of like what Eric said. Has it ended? Is it still ongoing today, realistically? Where? The big where. So like I said, Christianity is centered in Europe, Spain, France, England, the Holy Roman Empire. Islam is centered in the Middle East, the so-called Middle East, and we've talked about the angel of the Middle East. I got it on my globe here, or the lower right portion of this map here. Turkey, Saudi Arabia, Iraq, Iran, those are present-day countries. That's kind of the heart of Islam. Mecca is the holy city. But, so Europe and the Middle East, but what are we actually fighting about? Jerusalem. This city that is important to 3 major world religions. Christianity, Islam, in this case, but then, of course, Judaism, which is the parent of Christianity. So Jerusalem, really important city for 3 major world religions, and it's at the center of the First Crusade. Where is Jerusalem located? Present day what?
Israel.
Israel. On the map, it's right here, Jerusalem. So it's in the Middle East. That means that the European Christians had to travel, whereas the Middle Eastern Muslims, they were kind of already there, right? Now, presently, we call this part of Israel. But we're listed geographically, it's still the Middle East. Almost like, I don't know how you want to say it. Is it in enemy territory? Is it in Muslim territory, but belongs to the Jews and the Christians? This is why Israel is complicated. So there's the where. It's what we're actually fighting about. Now, why? I love the why. Why did people go to Crusade? The Crusades, tell me, Eric, what you got?
Because the Pope told them that if they followed that, they would be absolved of their sin.
Eric jumped straight to this one. That's good. One initial motivation was that young Christian men, if you go and fight on behalf of the church, if you go fight in my name, if you bear the cross on your chest and your shield, you will be absolved, fancy word for forgiven, you will be forgiven of your sins. In Catholic terms, this is called indulgences, or absolution. Those are big vocab words, right? Let's just go with forgiveness. Jot that down. But the simpler vocab word would be forgiven. You will be forgiven of your sins for waging war on behalf of the cross. Remember, crusade means go to the cross. If you go to the cross, if you fight on behalf of the cross, if you fight on behalf of the Pope, you will be forgiven of your sins. If you are a European farmer who's living day in and day out, committing, I don't know how to say it, average sins, you're like, oh, I have the chance to be forgiven by taking up arms on behalf of the Pope. Let's go to war. That was one major motivation. Potentially, on maybe on a greedier perspective, we thought that we could gain land. People thought that they could gain land. If we're going to go to the Middle East, we're going to conquer new lands, and we're going to take control of it. That's a new place for us to colonize, a new place for us to grow our crops, places to get rich. Gaining land is another thing. I'm jumping around on my slide a little bit here. Some people, flat out adventure, right? And we're going to see this as a continued motivation in exploration. We're going to talk about the age of discovery, Christopher Columbus, Lewis and Clark, Ferdinand Magellan. A lot of times the base level motivation was just adventure. Take yourself back to that European farmer dude who's tired of waking up and farming day in and day out. But the Pope is saying that we're going to go fight. Hey, I'm in. Sounds interesting. Sounds different. Let's go for adventure. So those were three kind of individual motivations. Gaining land, forgiveness of sins, adventure. The big stated reason, right? And if you were really a Christian patriot, if you really wanted to buy into the Pope's reason, the reason was to go recapture the Holy Land from the Muslims. And I certainly believe some people were motivated by that, right? Jerusalem belongs to the Christians. We have Muslims inside of Jerusalem. We got to go take it back from them. That's the starting point. And then the other three, those are kind of maybe inner motivations, where if you didn't really buy into the whole, we got to take back Jerusalem, maybe your simplest motivation was just to go for adventure. So Eric started that conversation. I kind of jumped around on the screen a little bit there, but I said all of them pretty well. There you have it. Here's what the Crusades were not: an attempt to convert Muslims. Christians were not going on a mission trip. They were not trying to say Jesus is right and you should believe in him. It was war. Okay, it was a holy war, and the purpose was to take back Jerusalem by any means necessary, even force. So I'm doing pretty good on time. Where am I at? 6 to go. I'm doing pretty good. All right, here's some results. Ultimately, the Crusades were a failure to recapture the Holy Land from the Muslims. In those first four major Crusades, the Christians won number one, right? So maybe it looked like it was going well. Pope Irving calls for a crusade, 1095, we go. The Christians retake Jerusalem in crusade number one. But they lose it in crusade number two. They don't regain it in crusade number three. And, another attempt to regain it, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. The Muslims held on to Jerusalem for a very, very, very long time. I am going to talk about each crusade here in just a second as well. So ultimately it was a failure, but let's find a positive, right? Let's pull a lengthy, long-term positive out of it. It increased the cultural exchange between Europe and the Middle Eastern countries. At this time, Europeans were pretty arrogant. And you might argue Westerners still are. Our culture is best. We got it figured out. We know how to math. We know how to science. We know how to do literature. We're the best. When they traveled to the Middle Eastern societies, they actually realized that Europe was a little backwards. These Middle Eastern societies, these Muslim cultures were a little bit more advanced. Science, math, technology, architecture. So because the Europeans visited another culture, because they had their eyes open. Now, granted, they went with the motivation of trying to conquer, but while they were there, it's kind of like, maybe we can bring this back to Europe. So math, science, education, trade, technology, it expanded the Europeans' perspective on the world, and there was a cross-cultural exchange. So yeah, combat bad, death, dying, blood, guts, fighting, negative. Positive result could be that there's this increased cultural exchange. Overall, there's a decline in feudalism. So we certainly talked about the Black Death, right? I said that was the beginning of the crack in feudalism. But this was another thing that led to the decline of feudalism in Europe. And if you're following the years, the first one being 1095, we know that feudalism kind of peaked in 1300. We see the crossover in years, decline in feudalism because so many people bought into the Crusades. Ultimately, despite the positive cultural exchange, and I do want to characterize that as a positive, there was a damaged relationships between Muslims and Christians for up until when, Eric? Yeah, I'd argue present day. A long time to come up into the present day. So when you go to war against each other over hundreds of years, it doesn't get resolved overnight. And unfortunately, I would argue Christians and Muslims, maybe not open combat, maybe not blood and guts, but we definitely have damaged relations for a long time to come, even up into the present day. My gosh, I got 3 minutes left. Should I tell you another story?
No, you should tell us who was more advanced.
Who was more advanced? Well, somebody tell Kylie who was more advanced. The Muslims were more advanced, so what I said was that the Europeans got there. Have you ever thought you had it going on, and then you go and visit another softball team, another horse riding facility? Trying to see what you guys are interested in. Another what? Another city. All right, you go and visit. You think you've got it going on. Whatever your extracurricular activity is, whatever your household is like, whatever your town is like. Then you go and visit somewhere else, and you're like, ooh, man, if I'm honest with myself, and that's hard to be, right? Because you still want to think you got it going on. But if I'm honest with myself, I'm going to say the way they run batting cages is better than the way we do it. The way they run their competition is better than the way we do it. So that took the Europeans that kind of had their eyes open and be like, we thought our society was best, but they are clearly more advanced in science. They are clearly more advanced in architecture. But we can take from that, right? We can acquire that idea, and there might have been some theft involved, right? Some intellectual theft. But the big takeaway was because the Europeans traveled out of Europe to the Middle East and back, right? They returned home eventually, and they took these ideas with them. You guys do that as well. The example I just gave. When you see something new, if you're able to honestly and humbly say, that's a good idea, maybe I can add that to my life, maybe we can add that to our softball team, our horse riding competition, our drama club, whatever. If you're humble enough to take the good idea and add it to your life, you will grow as well. So that is where world history could still matter to you today. Good question. Anyone else? Any other outliers? I got 1 minute till all the alarms blow up. I got 1 minute till all the alarms blow up.
What about Pope Urban?
Pope Urban II. Let me tell you a little. When was Pope Urban II most significant? What year did I give you? 1095. So on your 5 W's, you should put 1095 Pope Urban II. I'll use this time. I got 47 seconds. I'll tell you that a Saracen was a Muslim warrior. Funny name, right? It's not a normal vocab word like Crusader. I think we know that word, but I want to open your eyes to some more vocabulary. Saracen, which is on your 5 W's, was a Muslim warrior. So a Muslim who would have taken up arms against the Christians. Crusader was a Christian warrior. A Saracen was a Muslim warrior. You could put the whole bracket of time, 1095 into the 1700s, right? And you get the who, what, when, where, and why. 10 seconds. Any more questions? I can't believe I made it. Maybe I should add something to the presentation next time. 4, 3, 2. I love it. You made it. You made it. That was fun. That was fun. Maybe I should teach in 15 minutes every time.
Yes.
All right. Hey, we'll take that pause. to go to the bathroom. So go ahead and go to the bathroom. I just filled your brains for 15 minutes. Take the brain break. Take the brain break.
It's money.
Video games. Can actually
Yes.
And the weird thing I've noticed about it, like playing it, and you're playing the Muslim. You're running down the street. Well, then there'd be a Templar.
Okay.
A Crusader just standing on the side of the road. Just like what? Just like, oops, sorry.
Sit down. Sit down.
All right.
So,
Happens to be.
Wait.
You should
We
lock
should
it.
let's sing happy
Jordan's
birthday.
not in here yet. Lock it.
Let's sing happy birthday. Everybody get out. Get out, get out, get out. Oh my God, for the
Yeah, like, you don't
80s.
even have to get there.
the bomb has been
Happy
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Kayla. Happy birthday to you. Cha cha cha, ooh la la, hi-ya. So, Miss Jayla brought cupcakes. Anybody wants to bring cupcakes on their birthday? You're welcome to. Brain break. Jayla brought cupcakes.
Guys, we get a cupcake. I need the answers to the 5 W's.
I don't know all of these.
Brother. Smile.
Taylor, are you gonna get your orders for that?
Hey, don't touch my cupcake.
Everybody.
Sorry.
Everyone's got one? I'll wait. We don't have one. I need another one.
Eli, I know you ain't.
Kristen, do you want this back?
Do you want one? Oh,
I do. I want
No, you give it to someone else.
no one else wants it anymore.
Oh,
Hey, I hear you. Y'all got a good afford 14 points. Or y'all get for the. Dang it, I like seeing you out there. I see all y'all out
See you out there.
Hey, quarterback. Bum.
Another yellow chocolate one.
What is that?
Except that's so old.
All right, hey, we'll do about 5 minutes. Here's what I want you to do. I got a challenge for you. Like, this is even more serious than the TikTok challenge. Without phones, right? I want you to have a conversation with each other. Like around the people around. Yeah. Lily's like, my generation doesn't know how to have conversations with each other. Real talk. Have a conversation with each other. So I know we're not in quads per se, but you can still just have a conversation. Don't get twitchy. Don't get itchy. Don't try to put your phone down. Have a conversation with each other. Challenge accepted, right? Right? Challenge accepted.
All right, power couple. I was thinking of you too, even before I knew you power couple. You guys really should do this. Most of you are capable and put your brains together. Oh my gosh, I really think in this part right here, you have to record it audio. Just write me an essay. Seriously, I'll walk in the bonus points. You give me tips. I really think that you are capable of.
Hey, we got the bonus one dress up like a crusade or whatever.
Tomorrow? You want to? You're going to dress up like a crusader? I can throw that in there.
Thank you. I see that.
That was for feudalism, which I actually kind of backed off. You want to dress up like a crusader? You dress up like a crusader.
Hi, Kylie. Oh, Dustin. I'm not in this.
Have a conversation.
Basically. What a great barn. Whoa, can I see this? What is the yacht talking about? Hello, camera. I look dark. Wait, can I? Because I don't want to move that.
Y'all be crazy.
Hi. I got this and I got. What about tomorrow?
What are your big plans?
Can I tell you, man? Enjoy this.
This is kind of gay.
Just like you.
Yeah.
No!
Hey, you should put your pants on backwards now. Go to the back of it though, and then put something in the gay boy.
Hey, that's what you like, right?
What? That thing's loud.
Stop it.
Hey, Christian, it's conversation, not human. I want you to have a conversation.
We can't have a discussion. It's final discussion.
How much do you want to make?
About 3 more minutes to have a conversation. What am I, carnival, like weight guesser? 662. Yeah. Yes. Christian, we have a conversation with.
Yes.
Eli.
It's a weird one.
Ah!
What? Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Landon, take this up back. Have a conversation.
We're having conversation.
Wait, why are you waiting on
Hey, I'm fine.
I'm not finished talking that. I'm not either. I can't either. I'm gonna be Christian. If you lose your own I'm looking at them. They look like.
No conversation.
Let's go.
Got another minute. We are gonna get back to school. Alright, find your seat, finish your conversations, and find your OG seat. Find your original seat. Oh, yeah, you don't do that. Huh? Yeah, hurry up.
Yes.
Alright, that's five. Find your seat. So, real talk, was it easier? Give me a thumbs up, thumbs down. Easy or difficult to have a conversation? Some of you need to be honest, go thumbs down, because some of you, when you're twitching, you found your device, or
Jordan.
even as seriously as benign as I want to take a picture, we're still obsessed with it, aren't we? We still can't function without it sometimes. Guys, I'm right there with you. Okay, I'm not saying I'm any better. So that's why it was the challenge. The challenge was to have a 5-minute conversation. Some of us, we genuinely lost the ability, much less the actual art, to have a conversation without distractions about a meaningful topic, without going straight to our phones.
I don't know.
Yodelay hee hoo, all y'all out to three. Oh my gosh, where's Christian? Oh no, where's Christian?
Marco.
Hey, 5-year-old. That's literally what my 5-year-old does.
I got that.
Christian, we're talking 5-year-old.
Christian, at your age, not your shoe size.
Wait, is that how
Christian.
My shoe size is my age.
He's not.
It's not in there. Don't say it. Okay, I'm going off that word.
Hey, last time I said it was right here in Facebook.
Where's he at?
Hey, this is my give the camera face. Right? Play games, get prizes. I don't know where he's at.
Where's he at, man? You gotta know. He's away.
He's that skinny. I was about to say, I thought
Hey.
I bet you he's behind that.
No. The real talk is, you leave my class, you get locked out. So I don't know where Christian's at. Hey, I'm gonna deal with Christian in his own time, because that's just, at this point, it's just disruptive. You gotta know the line between ha-ha and too far. And I'm about done with Christian Mixons and his too far. Deal? I mean, you got that? I'm serious. I don't usually have to have this talk with the honors classes. So see my eyeballs? See them? Christian, come here. Come here. Outside. Go sit in the desk outside. Yeah. You are the weakest link. Goodbye.
Do I get my work, please?
No. Be on. Don't believe I won't do it. Okay? We have a lot of fun in here. Too far means too far. So there's your example. We are not done with, so 15 minutes, that was fun, right? Honestly, it's kind of a self-challenge. Lets you know I can go fast. I love these topics, guys. I love peeling them back. I hope you can see that in my preparation and in my, passion for each topic. I also know that I'm the history nerd and you guys are just catching it for the first time. You remember what the grid technique is? We talked about it first week.
Where you put the wax in.
That's right. And the other analogy would be like building a candle. So for you guys, this is your first, maybe second dip into the wax. Whereas for me, I'm kind of nerding out on it in my age 30s. So I try to be aware that I may throw too many facts at you sometimes, right? That's why I think the 15-minute timeline helps me as much as it helps you as well. So that said, I put the timer on myself. I think we had fun with it. Let me tidy up a couple of thoughts here outside of my own 15-minute time limit. So here's the cliff notes on those first 4 big crusades. The First Crusade was called for by Pope Irving II. You've heard that name about 4 times now. You probably should recognize that it's important. Pope Irving II, and the purpose was to expel the Muslims out of the holy city of Jerusalem. Hey, Christians, they're on our turf. Every good, God-fearing Christian should be motivated to go to war, a holy war, right? He uses all this motivational techniques to try to get Christian crusaders to rise into an army, go take back Jerusalem. First Crusade, they succeed. The First Crusade, if you were to stop there, you would say the Crusades were a success for the Christians because they seize, hold, control, maintain, are in possession of Jerusalem at the end of the First Crusade. But wait, there's more. So we're going to stop there. The Second Crusade flips the script. This time, Muslim invaders, right? They got ejected from the city the first time. But in the Second Crusade, Muslim invaders led by a general named Saladin. Pretty famous name inside of the Crusades. Again, you can go real deep with all the personalities and such, but Saladin is a pretty famous name. Saladin and his army defeat several Christian-held cities. So keep in mind, it's not just Jerusalem, right? In a military campaign, you want to control a wide area. So the Saladin's army, they start kind of stair-stepping back up to Jerusalem. They do defeat the Christian crusaders in Jerusalem. However, this bargain is made that the Christian crusaders inside of Jerusalem are allowed to leave alive. They had, defeated and ashamed, and with their tail between their legs, but they were allowed to leave Jerusalem alive. One of the major battles is the 87, and a siege. What is a siege? I think we've talked about it a couple times. We're going to see sieges. What's that?
To take over something or conquer.
To take over something, but what is the strategy involved in a siege?
Military tactics.
It's a military tactic, yeah. This is important because we're going to see it in other wars as well, both world history and U.S. history. A siege is that there's someone inside of an area. So in this case, the Christians were inside of Jerusalem. The Muslims circled Jerusalem and just weren't going to let them out. Eventually, they'll run out of food and water. Eventually, there'll be so much disease and dying people inside the city that the disease keeps spreading. So a siege is the one army encircles another location and just waits it out. So it becomes a waiting game. How much supplies do you have inside the city? Can you repel the attackers if they come and try to take over the city? The Alamo was a siege. Okay, the Texans were inside, and the Mexicans were on the outside. On a smaller level, anytime there's a hostage situation and the police have to circle a house, that's a siege. They don't typically last but a couple hours, but that's a siege as well. So the siege was the Muslims circling Jerusalem, and the Christians, long story short, ran out of food, water, medical. Enough of them died that they surrendered. Normally at the time, the norm at this time was that the conquering army would just kill everybody on the inside, right? We're winners, you're losers, we kill you. Kind of unique that the Muslims allowed the Christians to leave alive, again, ashamed, but alive. That's the siege of Jerusalem of 1187. Something that comes out of this is called the True Cross. It's a relic. Inside of Catholicism, they worship certain items, and that is a difference between Catholics and Protestants. Protestants don't worship items necessarily, but there are certain items inside of the history of Christianity that are seen as holy. One of these items was inside of Jerusalem at that time, and they believed, these Christian crusaders believed, it was a piece of the wood of the cross that Jesus died on. So this piece of wood was more important than other pieces of wood, right? Because Jesus Christ himself was laying on this piece of wood when he died. Well, the true cross gets lost during the Second Crusade, and unfortunately lost to history. Didn't just get stolen and ended up in a museum somewhere hundreds of years later. It got lost to history. So can't necessarily go back and test it with DNA and all that. Like, unfortunately, the true cross relic got lost during the Second Crusade.
There's a lot of wood in the world. Why would you do that?
Well, so from a military perspective, because it mattered to the Crusaders, the Muslims wanted to capture it. They could hold it hostage. They could bargain for it, but unfortunately, it got lost to history. Third Crusade. So Christians win number 1. Christians lose number 2. The Third Crusade was Europe's response, which Europe means Christianity. Europe's response to try to take back Jerusalem. This time they banded together French, German, English. Hey, all good Christian soldiers from across all of Europe, come forth and let's take back Jerusalem. Unfortunately, having 3 different nationalities, 3 different languages, led to a lot of disunity. Instead of one big army, they kind of had the German army and the French Crusaders and the English Crusaders. They never really united into one strong front. So that kind of leads to them being unable to actually take back Jerusalem. In the middle of this, however, they don't take back Jerusalem, but they do negotiate for safe passage for Christians who want to visit Jerusalem. Because that's the big deal, right? Muslims believe there's holy sites in Jerusalem. Christians believe there's holy sites in Jerusalem. Muslims stay in control of the city, but now if I'm a Christian who wants to go visit these holy sites, I can do so with safe passage. Now, safe might be a relative term, right? You might still get, maybe there's still dangers on the road. If someone commits a crime against you, is it going to be prosecuted? I mean, safe is a relative term, but the result of this is that the Muslims stay in control of Jerusalem, but Christians now have safe passage to go visit the holy sites. It's almost a compromise, right? It's almost like the 2 religions are working together with each other finally, right? Also in the middle of the Third Crusade, Sir Richard the Lion-Hearted, which is kind of a famous name that comes out of the Crusades as well. Again, I'm not trying to make you memorize a whole bunch of names, but Sir Richard the Lion-Hearted is one of the big names. He also tries to negotiate to get back the true cross, this piece of wood. But the Muslims say, Saladin says, hey man, I don't have it. Okay, you're trying to get back this piece of wood, and I don't know where it's at. So I'd give it to you if I could. Actually, he didn't say that. He said I wouldn't give it back to you even if I had it. But I don't have it, so I can't give it back to you. So that's really where it gets lost to history. It wasn't just something the Muslims were hanging on to. Wasn't just something they were trying to use as a negotiating piece. They legitimately didn't know where it was anymore, and that makes it lost to history. That's the Third Crusade. Remember, there's 4 big ones. The Fourth Crusade, the Christians try a different strategy. Instead of going straight for Jerusalem, they attack other Muslim-held cities, Egypt, North Africa, right? That's not the same area as Jerusalem, but they're thinking that if they can weaken Muslim leadership, Muslim economy, Muslim military power, if they can weaken it, then maybe they could then take on Jerusalem at a later date. But this strategy also doesn't work. It doesn't result in significant victories, does not result in them taking back Jerusalem. So 1, 2, 3, and 4. Christian victory, Muslim victory, Muslim victory, Muslim victory. 5 through 8, right? Let's just go beyond 1, 2, 3, and 4. 5 through 8, there's 4 other minor crusades. There's actually a crusade that's called the Children's Crusade. And folklore has it that an army of Christian children, most of them under age 12, marched from Europe towards Jerusalem. Now, it kind of gets lost to history as well because children is a relative term. The story gets exaggerated over time. It most likely wasn't a band of 8 to 12-year-olds going on a crusade. But it kind of makes a better story to say that these Christian children ages 12 and under are going to take back Jerusalem from the Muslims. So all that to say, there's 4 additional crusades. They are minor, they are less significant, and there's been 1,000 years of turmoil since, right? Up to, we already said it, realistically, the present day. Are we crusading? Is there an active crusade called for between Christians and Muslims? No. But there's still plenty of turmoil that may lead you to say that they are in conflict with each other to this day. So there it is. Before, this is the cliffiest of cliff notes. Before the First Crusade, Muslims hold Jerusalem. In the First Crusade, the Christians take it back from the Muslims. The Second Crusade, Muslims take it back from the Christians. That's an error. Muslims take it back from the Christians. The Third Crusade, Muslims repel the Christian attacks and hold the city. The Fourth Crusade, Christians attempt to attack other cities, but it does not result in them regaining Jerusalem. And then beyond that, there's 4 lesser and more minor crusades with no solution really to this day. Defeated crusader heading on home because in the end, there wasn't that result that the Christians were looking for. Major takeaways are that the big idea is that the Crusades were called for initially as an attempt to recapture the Holy Land from the Muslims. The Crusades helped change Europe because the Europeans saw new science, technology, architecture. They saw that Europe was not as advanced as the Middle East. You might even say that Europe was backwards compared to the Middle East. So there was that cultural diffusion, sharing of cultures that happened because of these hundreds of years of battles. And then I've already showed you this, but I will remind you the Crusades were ultimately a failure from the Christian perspective. Now, you might say it was a victory from the Muslim perspective. It's all about what side you want to take it from. But it's a failure from the Christian perspective to recapture the Holy Land from the Muslims. But again, you've already seen this slide. There's an increased cultural exchange, education, science, trade, and technology, decline in feudalism, and it damaged Christian to Muslim relationships into the present day. This is a timeline of the Crusades. Really don't expect you to read all that and take it all down. But when I post it on Google Classroom, you might be interested in that right there. What are your questions at this time? Any?
How many crusaders were there?
How many? Individual crusaders. I don't know. Should I owe you an answer on that one? I'll owe you an answer on that one. I don't know how many individuals participated in the crusade. And, history can't really say a number. These days, in the United States military, everyone gets dog tags. Everyone has an ID number. We can reasonably count how many soldiers are in the Army. Back then, I don't know, come and go, right? Like, I'm here today, and I got to go back to the farm tomorrow, and I'll see you next week. So, really hard, but we'd probably get a ballpark number. Definitely hundreds of thousands, right? Across hundreds of years, 4 major crusades, definitely hundreds of thousands, if not millions of people involved. Anything else? Or what else, I should say? Yes, no, maybe so? All right, we have an ample amount of time left in class, okay? So this was kind of, if we could get to it, I wanted to show you this video. Excellent video, excellent series of videos that I'm starting to kind of dive into and get familiar with myself for both U.S. history and world history. So we'll probably see some more from this series in the future. This is the Crusades explained in 14 minutes. You do not have follow-along notes directly related to this video, but anything you feel you need to mop up on your notes, on your 5Ws, this video, a chance for you to get all that last information. So to turn the volume up, I'm just going to ask you to not be on your phones because that's the standing rule. And enjoy.
Is brought to you by Captivating History. The Crusades were a series of wars fought in the Middle Ages, which initially began as an attempt to retake the hallowed city of Jerusalem for Christianity. For the many soldiers and knights who participated in these conflicts, the Crusades were a form of holy war that could guarantee a fighter's place in heaven. Despite their zeal, the Western Crusaders would have only a few successes after the First Crusade, and the Crusader kingdoms established in the Middle East would be very short-lived. The First Crusade was called for in the 11th century in response to a shake-up of politics in the Middle East. Jerusalem had fallen to the armies of Islam long ago in the 7th century. Still, Christian pilgrims had continued to visit the Holy City until the Seljuk Turks' armies changed the Levant's balance of power. The Seljuks had embarked on a war of rapid expansion, causing serious problems for the Christian Byzantine Empire and visiting Western pilgrims. Struggling to contain these new invaders, the Byzantine Emperor Alexios I, a shrewd politician, turned to the Pope for aid. The Eastern and Western churches had long been at odds with each other, even excommunicating each other in 1054. However,
you see these freckles? Baby marks. My melanin.
It's a reminder of where I've been.
I own it because it's a part of me. It's unique.
Go down,
My skin story belongs to me.
down.
With you, I stand out.
when the Byzantine Emperor asked for help, the Pope agreed.
Thank you.
It seems like an excellent opportunity to repair relations between the two churches and open up Jerusalem for pilgrims once again. The subsequent preaching